records it. It just 45-second delay getting it online.
Yeah, Jace verified after.
Yeah, there's 45-second delay on the live feed of it.
Found that out.
You're hot.
Okay. Good.
Paul, I'm gonna assume we're good, so let's stand and say the pledge.
Good. Yeah, call the meeting to order.
Okay, I call the meeting to order, then we'll do the pledge, shall we? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm all out of whack tonight because we got the switcheroo going on here.
Sorry.
Jace isn't here, so Matt's there.
See?
and-
I'm telling you,
This
it's
is a
all,
lot of difference tonight.
we do have a quorum, so we got that going for us. Jim, you wanted to add one thing, and that was just to your, you wanted to
Actually,
do
there's two things that I want to add, and I'd like to do it at
Okay.
item 13, so B and C. First one would be 13B, which is the application for lead service line inventory assistance through the DEQ. The DEQ has money to assist communities in North Dakota with completing their lead service line inventories. That's a requirement, and they've got plenty of money, from what I was told a couple weeks ago out in Bismarck. So, I'd like to do that. And then the second thing would be the resolution of governing body of applicant, which is just saying that the mayor can send this in on behalf of the city. So it's the resolution of governing body of applicant.
Okay. All right, anything else we need to add or change on this one? All right, then I'll look for a motion to accept the regular agenda with the said changes.
Motion to accept.
Okay. Sarah makes a motion, Jeff does a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Consent agenda, any last minute changes on that? Nope. Any questions? Not, then I'll look for a motion to accept the consent agenda as is.
I'll make that motion to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, Mary makes a motion, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Stephanie does a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, council meeting minutes from last go around. Any changes, corrections, additions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to accept them as is.
Motion to accept.
Okay, Sarah makes a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Jeff does a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, public comment. Anybody got anything you want to chit chat about tonight? Going once, going twice. All right, we'll move along. Sheriff's update. What we got going on in the great world here right now? All good stuff, right?
Living the dream, man.
All right, good.
You got the heat map and stuff from Brandon, right?
Yeah.
Did you get that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
It's in here.
Pretty busy in October for Horace. There were 355 calls for service. It was spread out, all sorts of different calls. I did have a couple things that came up on my list to talk about. First, K9 Coda, our other K9 is back in service. He's with his new handler. They're looking great, having fun, so we got 2 working dogs now again, so that's good.
Yep.
I did see Griggs highlighted on Facebook.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he's famous. He got his body armor finally. He's a big chested dog, but he's got narrow little hips, so
Yep.
body armor always looks weird on him. I'm just like, whatever. I'm new to putting armor on the dog, so I'm learning that stuff as we go along here. This last week we did have a couple trailer burglaries up on like 6800 block, just east of Cheyenne up there in the new construction. Some trailers and stuff got cut into, so that happened like last week. So we're dealing with that. I'm assuming with, stuff being parked, because there's more development going on in that area, the more stuff gets left there overnight. So we're keeping an eye on that. We are kind of having a change in how we deal with cats getting called in. We're to the point where we've had a couple deputies now ripped up by feral cats when we try to take them to the pound. So then they gotta go and get all sorts of blood testing and all that stuff done. So we're in the process of moving our policy to, we're not gonna come and deal with feral cats anymore, whether they're trapped or you corner them in your garage, it don't matter. We're not gonna come and get in a fight with a cat and have one of us get all ripped up and you know, it's a butterfly effect when we deal with them. So I'm assuming they're gonna put out some sort of, you know, press release or something like that, you know, when that finally changes, when they change the policy, but, so that's coming.
So who do we send folks to if there is a feral cat complaint?
You send them to the pound with the cat. If they're gonna go through the effort to trap a cat or to corner it, put it in a cardboard box in their garage or whatever, they can call us and we'll let them know, hey, you can take it to the pound yourself, because they have operating hours at the pound, or, you know, in dire circumstance, one of us could possibly meet them up there to get the cat in, but we're not gonna transport a cat from the house anymore.
Okay.
Because that's what happens. I mean, we only have like probably 4 cat carriers and stuff for the whole county, and they're all in Castleton at the West Station. So it's one of the things to where we want to keep our people safe, and we don't, you know, that guy that had to deal with that cat, he got all ripped up. His hands looked, it was bad. So, but there'll be more information. I'm assuming in that press release, they'll probably give some people some other options too, like Cat's Cradle and stuff like that, and contact numbers and stuff like that. So it's in the works, but we've already been implementing it. I mean, I can't call cats anyway because I got the dog, lucky me. But it's just one of the things we want to make people aware. Let's see what else is on here. We did already have a concern expressed to us from the headquarters about that we're possibly poaching the bar. They already had a meeting and everything with Sheriff Johnner, and they're in contact with each other. We haven't seen any like super increase in DUI or anything in that area lately, so I think their concerns were talked about with the sheriff, and it seems like they left the meeting. I wasn't at the meeting, but it seems like they left the meeting on a good note, so that's good. And then other news in Cass County, the sheriff did work with the commission, and they got the pay steps for all of the patrol, the B-23s in the jail. All of our steps got decreased, which makes it so we're more competitive in the law enforcement world. So that's good news for all of us, because that means we can up our quality of applicants and our number of applicants, because staffing's been going on. They're building on that new addition on the jail that takes like 15 people to run that whole addition, and they're already like 20 people short in the jail. So it's one of the things where if you add 15 to 20, they're 35 down. Well, now the step decrease stuff will be good, because then they can compete and get more applicants drawn into the work. So that's all I had on my list. Do you guys have any questions or anything on as far as the heat map or calls or anything? The heat map is heavy around County Road 17 because it's the main drag that goes through town. That's where we're going to do traffic. I'm assuming that got relayed to the headquarters. We're not trying to mess with them. We're just pulling where the cars are. That's where we go. So
I do have a comment.
Yeah.
Last week and the week before, after the new roundabout opened up, the driving up 17 is crazy as far as speeding. People passing in the roundabout. That's probably my biggest concern, passing in the roundabout. What's going on actually?
64th?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
If you guys could monitor that somehow, because I got passed one night bringing kids home from an activity, and I was doing the speed limit. I was even 4 miles over, and I got passed like I was standing still. And then the very next morning, I got passed in the roundabout, and I was like, "Good Lord." We need to step up giving out tickets. If people start getting tickets for 10, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, I think hopefully the message will be sent. So literally it happened right after you were up further up 17. We had just passed you at the 76 roundabout, and you were going north, and all of a sudden, as soon as you got out of line of sight, this car passed me like I was standing still.
Okay.
So.
We've done some directed patrol up on 64th Avenue. We've had residents on the east side of the roundabout concerned about people ripping through there at 55 because it's, you know, there's still residences and stuff there. So I know we've done some directed patrol up there, but I'll put another one in
Okay.
to people. What time of day?
That was, 5:30 at night,
Okay.
6 o'clock at night.
Well, I'm on the fortitude for the rest of the year, so I'll be around. So
Okay.
I'll put some extra time up there. The only other thing that we're hamstrung by is the classic North Dakota. Even 10, 20 over, it's 15, $10.
Right.
So it's one of the things where we make as many stops as we can. You know, we want to keep people safe, but in the end, is the lesson getting learned by a $10 ticket to someone under the age of 40? No.
Right.
But we'll do our best.
Okay.
We'll watch it.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Have gotten a couple comments in the comments department about the speed on Wall Ave. I'm sure you guys are aware.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of patrolling that now that that's open. Just
Yep.
remind you to touch base with you about that too. So it is 25 and we are getting most of them. They each day also 25.
Awesome.
So just for your knowledge.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you if we
Oh,
don't
yeah,
see you
guys
before
come and
then.
hang out.
Jim, we're gonna start off with you, and you're gonna be pretty busy tonight, so we'll start at the top.
I was thinking I was going to end with me too. All right, Mr. Mayor and Council. So the first thing we have is 66th Street South. We have fence maintenance as a topic for discussion tonight. As part of the 66th Street project, there was a fence installed along the Adelman addition on the west side or east side of 66th Street and on the north side of the Adelman addition to provide a little buffer from an arterial road to a residential neighborhood. So in the design of that project, the fence was put in. It was put in to be installed on the property line. That's since been moved in. It's been sucked into a foot within the right of way, so it's all within the right of way. There was a resident along that corridor who would just like a little more definitive answer as to who's responsible for the maintenance of the fence. They don't want to be responsible for maintenance of a fence along an arterial corridor like that. So, if you remember, there was the issue on Park Drive with the snowplows taking out the fence. Last winter, the city had to replace, so we did beef up the fence at the recommendation of the fence suppliers to provide a stronger fence along this corridor. But since the fence is 100% within the right of way, the attorney has instructed that that would be a city responsibility for maintenance of that fence if it gets damaged, correct?
Yeah, so because it was installed on city property, any maintenance of the fence, if the city wants to tear it down, city wants to improve it, whatever, is the responsibility of the city. If that's not the council's intent or desire, we can try to enter into an agreement with property owners that are adjacent to the fence to try to sell them the property where it sits, so then the property owner is responsible for maintenance, or if they want to take it down, improve it, whatever, they certainly can. We're providing this information to the council tonight because there is a resident here that wants more of a definitive answer on what we're doing with the fence, and so we're just trying to provide the council with some options on what you guys are thinking. If you want to continue to have that responsibility, then we just leave the fence as is, and it's the city's fence to take care of. So that's kind of the
What's the
short of it.
prior precedence right now? It's the fence.
Usually these fences aren't installed as part of these projects, and this was requested by the property owner, so it was installed at the request of the property owners, and obviously installed on city property.
A majority of the property owners, I don't think it was 100%, but it's the
Yeah.
majority.
Majority, yeah.
And so I guess too, for future projects, what is the council's desire with these fences? Or if it's, maybe we don't include them anymore, or.
Is
Or if
this
you're fine with it,
specific
then
to
fine with
this
it.
fence or all fences moving forward?
Specific to this one, but I think this would also help with future projects to know, do we include fences on city right-of-way, or do we work with property owners at the time of installation and say, the city's willing to put this fence up or install this fence as part of the project, but it'll be on your property, you're responsible for future maintenance of it. And if it's for a new development, we can certainly work that into the ID agreement or the developer agreement to say that. But in this instance, there's nothing, and it was installed on city property, so it's the city's responsibility.
Do we
Right
own
now.
the one on Park Drive?
So the one on Park Drive was within the right of way.
Yeah.
It was within the city
So it's
right
the
of
same.
way.
It was within the right of way? Yeah.
And two of the property owners are here. I'm one of them. Mr. Gable, you're here. And I talked to Jesse, the other neighbor, just this weekend. What's your general consensus? What's your thoughts?
I just wanted clarification. I've been asking these questions for 6 months, and it's kind of been like, oh, we'll deal with it when we get there. Well, we got there. And I just want to know what my responsibilities are, what my rights are when it comes to the fence. I prefer that the city take on ownership of it. It just makes sense if it's in the right of way. But if the fence blows over, I don't want to have to pay to put the fence back up, right? Like, you know what the wind's like out there and things like that. So, but if it is my responsibility, that's fine too. I just want clarification as to what rights and responsibilities come with this fence.
Yeah, this is a maintenance-free fence is the intent of the fence. And it was put in with 3 feet of concrete, and there's steel reinforced slats that I personally witnessed because I extended at my own expense a portion of the fence onto my property to line up with my home, separate of the project, but still the same product, right? So this is interesting because it is in the right of way. What do you guys think?
I mean, if it's in our right of way, it's probably ours.
I guess if we're putting it up, I'd say it's ours.
So the discussions that we've had, I've asked Fargo, I've asked other communities what the policy is on fences. And the one that came to my mind, and I asked the city Fargo engineer, was along 52nd Avenue, 45th Street by Woodhaven. There's a fence along there, and he said, it's funny you should ask. Someone questioned them about it probably a month ago, and he went back and looked, and it was in the covenants is that fence was the responsibility of the property owners. So Lucas and I, we've been talking about including fences in these ID agreements so that the city doesn't get in this predicament where who's what, where if it goes in, it's on the property owner, not on the city. Because 64th Avenue, we're going to approve that district. We're going through that process for 64th Avenue, and Deer Creek Estates on the north side of the road has indicated that they'd like a fence on there to buffer from 64th and Deer Creek.
That's correct, yeah.
We had told them from the get-go that that's not going to be installed as part of the public improvements, and that if it is a community ID agreement, that it goes back on the property owners.
I don't know how this works, it's my first time. Well, and this is something that comes back to the fact that we weren't notified before construction, otherwise this question would have been addressed well beforehand.
Yep.
So really, it's just a matter of, now that it's done, how do we handle it?
Yeah, I think the city's pretty well stuck with this fence.
I agree with that.
It's just a matter of what you guys, I think, want for future ones. I mean, make sure that it is something where it's the property owners, or does the city like the control? I mean, the city having control of the fence controls the whole fence. You know, if it's individual property owners, the level of maintenance and care of the fence is going to change.
I do agree with that, and
so,
in this particular case, it was a negotiating point that the fence, whether it be on the property line or in the right of way, and there were a number of existing appurtenances on people's property, sprinklers, things of that nature, that I know Mr. Gable was affected, Mr. Peterson was affected, I was affected. I'm still gonna have to pay for that bill, but that was on my own dime, right? Because I didn't have property pins at the time, or correct property pins to tell me where my sprinkler heads needed to go. So they had to be moved, and that was an expense in itself. I struggle with this a little bit because typically when you put up a fence, you'd like to have your homeowners take care of it, but with this type of a fence, I mean, it should be fairly maintenance-free, and if we continue with this standard throughout the city, we could have a very nice city where we don't deal with individual property owners as much because we have a standard that is set, and it makes people pretty happy when they don't have things right on their property line. That was a big source of issue with this particular project. I'm open to discussion.
I'm just curious as to, okay, who's doing the landscaping around it as far as like upkeep, mowing, any kind of stuff like that? Is that property owner, is that city, or who's doing that?
So the inside, towards the street would be city, to the backside, I assume would be the property owners.
Okay.
That's kind of the way it goes.
And that's fair, I think. I'm one of those people that'll weed eat whatever's there.
I was gonna say, otherwise you need about a 1-foot mower to do the strip between the fence and the person's property. So
Right.
I like to think people take enough pride in their yard to mow up to the
and you're not going to see it,
fence.
right?
Yeah.
True.
Stephanie, what's your thoughts on this?
I think if it's in the right of way, it's it's probably our fence, at least for this project, yeah.
I'd say for continuity too.
I,
think that's proper for this one. I think it might be something we need to think about though, if we want to do that in the future.
Yeah, and I think if it is, we'll have the discussion, and then if you guys decide, we'll put it in the ID agreement.
Yeah. I think it might be something that we might have unique situations for this, but I think for the most part, I think the city, when we do things like that, should probably be involved in the fence.
Yeah.
And making sure that it's the correct fence and we'll handle the maintenance on it, so it's you don't get the picket fence where one
Right.
owner's handling it, the other one's not. You got a fence that looks bad.
And with this one being a large lot subdivision, it's gonna be surrounded by small lot, or not
Yep.
small lot, but higher density, road that connects schools, pretty good sized park. It's kind of a different animal than just a standard. You know, if the city gets their first build, say 64th Avenue, build 64th Avenue, there's nothing being done on the outside of the right of way. There's really no reason for that fence. This one, it was the buffer from an existing large lot subdivision.
You know, I'm really interested in this spec of fence. I was very particular, when we discussed this, because we do have 60-mile-an-hour winds very frequently that come through there with no trees, very little cover. And it's a unique situation that we're gonna get into as we move to the east in Horace and to the west in Horace, outside of the regular city bounds. It may be something that we wanna look at standardizing.
Yeah.
And then if we do maintain that within the city, we have several color options, but the standardization is there, and maybe some materials are kept on hand, I don't know.
I agree.
It would ensure a nice aesthetic and a uniform aesthetic in our town. And if you know, some of the other parts of town have varying different styles and types of fences. I'd like to see it standardized and look nice and be maintained well.
That's it. No action needed.
Okay.
Does that help?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Good.
Then we'll move on to number 9.
All right,
Jim, you
Mr.
got
Mayor.
this one.
Yep, this is for design engineering services reimbursement for Water Sewer Street, Storm Street Improvement District 2022-2, Lost River 7th edition. Standard fare. The project was designed by the developer's engineer, not City of Horace. Developer provided invoices and likely to reimburse for the special assessment district. Design included preliminary design utilities, plans, bidding documents, Army Corps of Engineers 4-way permit, and performed by Lowry and EAPC Engineering. The invoices provided by the developer have been reviewed. We've gone back and forth as to what's eligible as what's not eligible. So what you've got in your packet is the ones that we've gone through and identified what's eligible on them. That's the amount they've requested is $56,407.27. So not a real big dollar amount.
Is that the amount they've requested or the amount that's approved? Because I saw a number of edits.
The number that is approved.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. The highlighted items.
Lucas, did you have any concerns on any of that? I don't know if you had a chance to review it.
I didn't review it.
Okay.
Jim reviewed those.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that or concerns?
Just my common question every time after this, how much time did it take to review it and make edits?
This one wasn't too bad.
Okay.
This one was a continuation of the other Lost Rivers and the master plan on that. So this one wasn't too bad when it came to the city staff side of it. There are other ones that have been more involved, that have taken more time, but this one wasn't too bad.
Okay, and the city has to eat that cost of whoever's.
Nope, gets rolled into the district.
Okay.
So what we do on the preliminary stuff is we do the review on behalf of the city. We keep track of our time. We roll that into the construction engineering portion of it, so that's into the district, and it gets reimbursed through special assessment. So the city doesn't eat any of that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
For a motion to accept the reimbursement.
I will make that motion.
Okay. Motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Get a second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Jim?
So yes. Let me catch up here. This one is all right. So, the city has received a petition for 81st Street and Wall Avenue improvements. This project starts about Buckthorn Avenue on the south on 81st Street and continues up to 76th Avenue. And Wall Avenue from where we stop at Jubilee Equine to the west, to approximately the entrance of Lost River West, or just to the west right-of-way line of the FM diversion. This is being requested as a precursor to the Lost River West and Jackson Alley first and second additions in the city of Horace. So the developer has presented a petition requesting these services. So they have paving Wall Avenue west of existing, which is Jubilee Line, and plan improvements for Wall Avenue in the western edge of pay requirements, service Lost River West, 81st Street from access to the first phase construction, Lost River West to 76th Avenue. So this would provide another north-south corridor that's paved until a 76th or 9th, however you want to look at it, or 78th or 9th north-south corridor gets built. That would go through the horse park at the current moment. So the district boundary for this project is pretty much on the west side of the diversion, and it goes to the FM diversion back to 81st Street. So this is all new development consisting of Lost River West, Jackson Alley first, Jackson Alley second. There is one parcel in the middle that is currently outside of the city. Let's see if we
It's that
did.
rectangle.
Yep, it's the rectangle. If you go down to the.
It might be a little more than that too.
Go down to the next one. So that's the project location. You can zoom out just a tad bit.
And then the bottom right, also Fox.
Go to the next one. Okay, so this is the district boundary. The swooping line is the FM diversion. To the south is the Lost River West. That the two parcels there. The Bull Bear, which is also included in this petition. Then it's is Bull Bear in the city?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the next one, that's the box surrounded by boxes, that's outside of the city, and then it's Jackson Alley second, and then Jackson Alley north, or Jackson Alley first edition, north of that one line. So this is all special assessed west of 81st Street.
So the reason that Jim brings up some of the property not in the city is that the city can levy an assessment on that property, but it can't collect it until it's annexed. So know that there's potential that those properties are just gonna sit with special assessments on for, I don't know how long.
How much property are we talking about that's not in?
We're looking into it at my office to make sure, but it's for sure the rectangle with the
You can see the cursor.
rectangles around it, and then the bottom right property. Yeah, so that property
here.
right there for sure. And then
Is that's the horse?
This
Not
is
Jubilee, but it's a farm with horses.
Yes.
I know exactly what.
And then
it
the
is.
bottom
There's the guy asking about airstrip last meeting,
Yeah.
and then this one right here.
Yep.
But I think there's also property to the west of the runway strip.
No, this was part of
Oh,
that
to the west.
annexation.
Right there, I think.
This is the diversion channel, which they are working towards wanting to annex in. So
There were, to what?
the diversion authority
Yeah.
wants to annex in as much of the diversion channel as they can into the
Into
city.
the city?
Yeah,
And what's the purpose?
I believe it's easier to work with one entity for permitting. Minimize the number of entities they have to work with on the permitting.
That's a whole nother discussion, I
Yeah.
guess.
Correct.
Yeah.
True.
So the top one is roughly 15 acres, and then the other one,
And what type of road surface is proposed?
so this one is 81st Street is considered to be part of the flood control of the Cheyenne diversion. The elevation has to be maintained. So this one would be just an asphalt rural section roadway. There's kind of limitations as to what we can do with the constructability on that west side of the FM diversion. There's not the FM, the Cheyenne. There is an elevation that has to be maintained. And when you start putting curb and gutter and all that stuff on there, it gets to be a little bit. So just shape it and pave it is what we're anticipating.
But it'd be very similar to 76.
Yeah.
As far as visual, it'd be very similar to
Very
76.
similar with
76 east of the.
No, it'd
the
be
paved-
76
paved.
west of the roundabout.
Yeah, okay.
Or east of the concrete, yeah.
That's a nice section there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll quite be that wide, we'll be for shoulders on both sides, just depends on how wide they'll let us get.
Right.
We pretty much are kind of stuck with what the width is out there now. And then Wall Avenue is gonna it's gonna come down because of the crossing at the Cheyenne diversion. I don't think would facilitate having the 2 lanes as wide as it is. That's something we have to look at when we design it. Probably be reduced down a little bit to get across the diversion and over to the Foster River West.
The one thing that I am gonna caution is that with all that new construction, you're gonna have an awful lot of heavy trucks on that
Yeah.
road. And so if you can make that a little wider to accommodate these bigger trucks, which, I mean, we all know that they can get by one another, but trying to get by and not have rocks flying in your windshield and everything is a challenge. So, I would do everything you could do to utilize whatever corridor they give you for that, just because we know what the future purpose is gonna be and what it's gonna look like. But there's a lot of people I know that would have appreciated this year.
Yeah,
This has been a highly requested item.
it has, yeah. And this is kind of maybe put these on the agenda backwards, but the next one we talk about is getting some force main or sewer out in that part of the world for development too. So we have to get the utilities in there and then put the road on top of it, so.
So the petition, this petition for this improvement district has that language, resolution declaring work necessary shall not be required. Resolution declaring work necessary shall not be required for said improvement district. Can you explain to me again what that means as far as any notification to property owners?
So all that does is statutorily takes out the requirement for us to publish the resolution of necessity in the newspaper.
But we would,
Letters will still
would
get
still do
sent
the same
pursuant
process.
to the city's policy.
okay, and would
But
those letters,
statutorily.
would those letters go to residents that are in this district that are not currently part of the city?
They should.
Okay. I mean, I think they need to be notified.
If their property touches, right?
They're
Isn't it
in-
within 300
If it's
feet or something?
They're in
Within
it.
They're within it.
Within,
Yeah.
We're-
outside of it doesn't matter.
We're
Okay.
only talking
Inside.
less than a dozen.
But then the other comment I'll have is
I still want, I know, but I still want them to have
Yeah.
notification.
The other comment I would have is I would like it if the council is gonna take action on, there's 2 petitions that you're gonna discuss tonight. The developer, the petitioner put in there developments that have not been platted yet. And I'm not comfortable with using that as a description. I think they need to actually use what the property description is, because the development's not platted, so that doesn't exist.
Oh, you mean the legal,
Doesn't mean
you
anything.
mean
Yeah,
the legal
the legal
description in the
description.
petition? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
That's fine.
Agree.
So since you brought that up, is there any other developer up here that actually isn't, we'll just say Jack, that owns land here that's gonna be impacted? Are they being forced to, come to the table is what I'm getting at?
There's 2 properties. There's the Fox residence on the south and the Zeitz is to the north. Other than that, they're in this.
All
Go to
the-
the aerial, to read.
This one?
No,
Next
no,
one.
my map's always.
The dark one,
That
this
one. So you'll see that,
You can't see that one.
look at,
Here's a district.
please.
It's just on the west side of, it's just on the west side of Mayford. The one that is the next one.
So if you can see there, there we go. Zoom, can you scroll down the bottom? So the only parcels that they don't have are the basically, so there's the one south there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the green, the purple, the red, and the black. Green is the Jackson Alley, they're listed on here. Black is Jackson Alley second, listed. Red is Beaubear Properties, they're listed, and then the Samuelsons have that color, purple.
So there's a property to the south there as well.
Yep, that's the Fox residence.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And then Zeitz's are in the middle.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Jim, is there anything else you wanted on this?
No.
So, two things to look at here. We got the resolution accept petition for improvements.
Can we turn the lights back on?
Absolutely.
I can't see my agenda.
And then we have the
Thanks.
resolution creating the district, so.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for the resolution accepting the petition for improvements.
Okay, so Sarah makes a motion. Can I get a second?
And that's with the condition that they change the legal description?
With the condition as stated, yes.
Okay. Sarah made a motion with that addition. Can I get a second?
Second.
And does a second. right. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And the resolution to create the district.
So we've kind of touched on this briefly. Next one. Next one. Right there. So that's where we, the right direction. So this is where I touch on where the limits of the district boundary are.
What's the jog there in the
The
middle?
jog is the right of way and the diversion. So the diversion owns,
Okay.
the Cheyenne diversion, that is, owns the channel itself and then the crossings.
Is that
all
the
certain-
red, like, indent there?
Yeah, where
Okay.
it comes in, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you look on, there's a kind of a cross there, and that's the right of way of the diversion.
Previously established?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? Those I'm look for a motion for the resolution to create the district.
All right, so moved.
Okay, anyone needs a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Jeff does a second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Jim, you got the next one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So as we just discussed a little bit, sewer service, a force main has been requested for 76th Avenue and 81st Street sanitary sewer. This would be to service the Jackson Alley First, and then Lost River West additions. So if you go to the next, go to the location map, it'll be down in my memo. This one? I put that on the, yeah.
Lucas, while they're discussing, do we have the same issue with legal description on this petition?
Worse on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I thought I read it, so that's why
Yeah.
I'm asking.
3 developments on this one.
So right now, the city has one sanitary sewer crossing of the Cheyenne River, and that's on 88 Wall. That services Lost River, and it's going to service River's Edge Second and River's Edge First Edition. The capacity, the city has always looked at doing crossings at 76, 88, and 64. So 76 is the next progression of sewer crossings of the force main to Fargo. This project would start at the roundabout and continue to the west along 76th Avenue and then south to 81st. This would allow for the service of sewer to Jackson Alley, like I said, Jackson Alley Second, and Lost River West additions. The reason the district boundary is rather large on this one is that Altenburg Acres has been submitted, which is up on 64th Avenue. And in discussions with Public Works, they wanted to kind of centralize a lift station kind of up closer to the northwest corner of Maple Grove Edition. And that would have to come down along whatever street this is and then crossed on 76th Avenue. So the district is quite a bit larger to service that whole area. This is obviously the Lost River West, River's Edge Second, Jackson Alley, and then this is, we don't know what's going on in this part of the world yet, but this is where Altenburg Acres is. We've also had discussions with the owner along the diversion on the east side about getting some service to them. That's kind of stalled a little bit, but thoughts were to put a lift station right here, take everything on the west side, bring it to here, and come across over to the SSL to Fargo and then back up to Deer Creek Parkway. So this is a rather large district, but none of these properties on the west, aside from Lost River, have been assessed for the connection to Fargo. It was done pretty much everything east of the river minus Lost River, the first editions of Lost River.
So Jim, are you saying that all the sewer that's gonna come out of there are gonna go into our current SSL pipe and go, so there'll be enough capacity in that line to handle that?
So that's part of what we have to do when we get to the point of getting into the project. This is where we're leading to, is to that.
Yeah.
We do have those two pipes going to Fargo. They're
Yep.
using about a third of the capacity, but that's kind of the only option right now for that. We could take Lost River first and the River's Edge off of the SSL to Fargo and send it over on 45th Street. We interconnected that with the city's current system.
Yeah.
So we should, but we'll get into the nuts and bolts of that.
Yeah, no, that's
when
fine.
the time comes, but-
Just curious, because then we talked about the capacity issue,
Yep.
so it's seeing where that was gonna go.
Yeah, so that will be part of the nuts and bolts of it.
Got it, okay.
So you're saying that the capacity and the infrastructure that you're putting in is going to be big enough to service this entire region in the future? I get that, but my concern is the need to do it now is completely developer-driven for Lost River and Jackson Alley, and we're asking properties, residents, to be in an assessment district for development that's 2 miles from where they live. I get the regionality of it. That's a little difficult for me to wrap my head around. And we have, if you said maybe that River's Edge wouldn't, I mean, what was the plan for, we approved River's Edge second. What was the plan before, because this wasn't proposed then, what was the plan for River's Edge second?
River's Edge second is going south through Lost River across on our current crossing.
So,
88.
On Wall.
On
Yeah.
80, yeah.
On Wall, okay.
So River's Edge second was not assessed for the first round of the SSL because it wasn't in the city.
And so now you've decided to change it,
So
the
we have
River's
the
Edge.
option of including them in this.
Okay, in memory, so do you have a number? I mean, how many homes in this district are on their own private septic?
It'd be Maple Grove, Shadow Lane, and Greenfields. So I don't have the exact number.
Which they wouldn't be required to switch over unless there was a failure to their system. At which time, quite frankly, it would be a heck of a lot cheaper to switch over to
So-
In Memory Lane too.
the city.
It'd probably be-
Memory Lane is,
Hybrid.
Memory Lane is a hybrid. So right now they have they have injector pumps, they have septic tanks that go to the
Right.
treatment factory. As part of River's Edge second, the treatment plant is coming offline. That water will then go into the River's Edge lift station and pump back through the system out to either the lagoons or the SSL to Fargo at the four-way stop. So the stance that the city council has taken in the past, 2018-ish, was that if you're on septic, you aren't going to be forced to do it. Because if Cass Public Health, who regulates the septic, says that you are no longer going to get one, that's a different story, but the city's not going to say that you have to give it up. If you guys want to continue that, you can. If you want to be special about it, you can, but that's just been the past. There is some century code language that says if you're within, I believe it's 300 feet or 200 feet of a system, you have to pay. But
Only if your system fails.
Only, yes.
that's kind of been the guidance that we've seen, but it kind of depends on what the groundwater is like too. I mean, the leachate gets into the ground, and there are some places where, in Minnesota, where there's high levels of not good stuff in the ground, so contaminated drinking water.
And so do the other developers that own land in this district, are they aware that this district's being created? I mean, we have a multitude of different developers in this land area.
I can't say for definitive yes or no. They haven't been notified as far as prior to this.
And what methodology do you think that you will propose
For
assessment?
in the past, regional sewers have been based on the equivalent unit.
Well,
So-
within the engineer's report, that's when you identify
So we'll look at
the
that. and-
potential
and
breakout,
start.
you identify what could be the perceived benefit, the cost estimate, that addresses a lot of those concerns, and I believe our policy identifies that we'd have the engineering report, and then also be able to use that to help notify the residents of what
What a proposed assessment.
a
would be.
proposed
I guess
district is.
I guess my main concern, which, I mean, I've shared before, is I'm sure that none of our current residents are even aware that this is happening. And they're gonna get a generic letter that states you're an assessment district with a generic estimate proposed across the board probably without speaking to benefit. And say, because a developer wants to develop, some of you people 2 miles away from where you live, we're forcing you into a district now on the future chance that you might need it, and we want you to pay for it now. And then we'll say to them, but just, that's okay, in 2 years, when it comes, if you remember, come to the special assessment committee in the council, you can argue for a lesser reduction. That's just, I mean, I know that these are probably not questions that we can take care of right now, but I think being very careful on the front end with these districts of benefit as well. I know that we probably can't delineate on the front end, but I don't know,
But we still
it's
also-
it's difficult for me to support.
But we still have to look at the bigger picture here too, because, like you said, if we're gonna expand this out, we have to think ahead a little bit on how this is gonna look. Otherwise, this is gonna get pricier as we go along, so that's why you gotta think ahead as to what's
Or your
coming.
hands might be tied. Look at Sleepy Hollow, for example. I mean, they're bounded on the river on the east and Dreamfield's on the west and River's Edge second on the south and
Shadow Lane.
76 is Shadow Lane.
Yeah, Shadow
Yeah, I
Lane.
get them like backwards on which side of the road they're on. And if they are not included in this assessment district and in 5 years they decide they want to use the pipe, that's the only way to cross it, is this pipe. We can't put in another one in 5 years and risk permitting wastewater across this river again.
And this
Not to mention the
does,
cost.
this does, like kind of what Corey was saying too, is it helps us get ahead of some of these areas to where when they do develop, which we anticipate won't be real far out, we're going to start getting pressure for development in those areas. We're at least ahead of the curve for once, not reacting. No, it's a reaction for some of the developments, but a lot of what's between Wall Avenue and 64th, that area there, is an opportunity to get ahead.
Well,
That's-
but it's like the
actually-
cost factor too. Look at, I mean, we've been looking at what the Flush to Fargo project, when we first started talking about this, and we were talking about like 4.5, and now it's already up to 6.7.
6 million, yeah.
All right, it's only been a couple of years, right? It's the same thing here. If we sit and do this thing in segments, it's gonna get more costly. We're always talking about how we're trying to save the homeowner money. Well, this is how you do it,
It's kind
planning
of
ahead.
Piecemeal together at that point.
Yeah.
We've had issues in the past where we've been too blocked and in essence have been forced to piecemeal more expensive improvements instead of doing something up front. And I'm not discounting your point at all, because you do have a very valid point here. But I tend to err on the side of being proactive instead of reactive for that reason, because it does mitigate cost, which is in the long run helpful, even for some of the residents. I am a strong proponent of not forcing anyone to be, moved on to another system if they're currently on septic. So I think those are some pretty good reasonings to take a pretty hard look at this point. But you're right, it is overwhelmingly developer driven, but there are some pretty huge benefits that will be taken into account by some of these people that are dealing with not only pressure issues, but how they're gonna connect in the future, those types of things.
So I think we've taken and learned from the first SSL, because the first SSL, the district was the entire city. City boundary, everything within the city got assessed for that project. And we whittled that down at that time to anything west of the Cheyenne River was given a zero benefit, because unless it was Lost River, because Lost River had an immediate direct need for it. And Sunnyside, Shadow Lane, all those were assessed for the SSL in 2018, 2019. And they haven't connected to it either, but they need that in the future if they would connect onto it. So, it gets to the discussion of deferment, defer it until you need it, but we've had the deferment discussion with special assessments for probably since before that project, so they're going on
So,
5-7 years.
so if they're in the district, they have septic, is that how it would work? Then they wouldn't pay until,
No, there was a,
That was ag deferral.
there's an ag deferral for 2 years in the policy, but there was also, when we did the lift station in Maple Lake Estates and the force main there was the septic tank
yep,
acknowledgement is what we called it. So those in Country Acres, first, second, third, and along in that district that had septic tanks got a reduced rate because of the acknowledgement that they had that, and they weren't gonna connect on, and it put a little more onus on the developer, knowing that they needed it right now versus.
Those
not.
that are on septic didn't get assessed.
Those that are on septic didn't get assessed. It was
And was that-
drastically
Yeah.
drastically reduced.
And
But-
was that decision determined by the The Special Assessment Commission, or
Yes.
who made that determination?
The council
The council.
ultimately.
Ultimately, it was city
Okay.
council.
However,
Okay.
Ultimately, it was city council.
there is a little different dynamic
I'm
now.
struggling to, I mean, I kind of vaguely remember that. I just want to make sure I understand for this project. Because then, like in Maple Lake, they would just pay the tap fee, right? Is that
Well, and
we-
that's what
like-
we've been talking about on a staff level is the $1,000 tap fee.
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't follow the previous precedent set
Mhm.
for these residents as we did for those residents back at that time.
Mhm.
So how
That's
We
fair.
followed it two different ways. So one was Maple Lakes dynamic and one was SSL dynamic. So we've had a couple different ways to look at this. The SSL one, you could look at it as this is such a big area. If you do the assessments based on each and then the non-developed land as equivalent units, that knocks down the cost a lot because you have more participants in the district. It also cuts down the cost of, if you have that, they're able to connect a lot easier, helps minimize future projects.
Yeah,
So-
I'm pleased that we have some options, and this will all come to us in the engineering report, but it sounds like we could go any number of ways. And it sounds like we can be very fair, one way or the other, to those that are existing and the development folks that are driving this that maybe should have a share.
The latitude
You know.
is definitely there.
Can you, and it was before my time, but could you clarify, did you say that the SSL infrastructure that was put in before was assessed to who?
Citywide.
The entire city?
Citywide was the district. Those that weren't assessed were the ones west of the Cheyenne River.
Oh, they got a zero,
And
I
north
see what
of
you're
Wall.
saying, okay,
And north of
okay.
Wall.
All
So
right.
you have the district set and then later say, okay,
Okay.
this is a zero benefit.
Yep.
So
And the
there's ways
capacity-
to work it, and that's actually the same way Maple Lakes was done, or Maple Lakes and Country Acres. Country Acres was in the district, but then they just said there was zero benefit.
During the Special Assessment Commission
Yeah.
process, okay. And I'm sorry, I just have one final question. The capacity that is being put, the lift station proposed and the infrastructure,
No lift station.
well, no lift station, but the infrastructure, would it be the same? I mean, would it be the same if the district didn't include, I mean, the capacity is a capacity. Whether all of these homes are included in the district or not that currently have septic, would the capacity be the same that you're putting in?
So we would be smart enough to think ahead and try to do it right, as far
Okay.
as right sizing it, not just doing it for the requested area. We need to think more globally, otherwise we spend a lot of money on, like we say, piecemealing something together to get it going. So it may not be as drastic, but I mean, the little area that we're taking off of this, if we were to exclude the septics, is probably not a huge thing when you look at like a peaking factor of 3, but it's something that you'd have to think about. But in good conscience and judgment, we'd have to have some provisions in there for all of those parcels, just knowing
Okay.
that they would come that way, have to go that way eventually.
Okay.
And the cost is not going to be, I mean,
Yeah.
the upfront cost of a lift station, obviously lift stations are expensive, right? But to go from a 4-inch to a 6-inch to an 8-inch to a 10-inch pipe, I mean, those are steps, and it's a lot cheaper to do that upfront than to try to go back and upsize later.
Or put
So-
another one in.
Well, look,
Yeah.
the same thing we talked about, the same conversation we had when we did the SSL. Let's right size it the first time, we'll use one side till we get ramped up, and we've got the capacity sitting there, you know?
So as part of the SSL, when Horace entered into agreement with Fargo to treat their wastewater, there was a component of that project that was them having to upsize their infrastructure to handle the additional flows. And that was around $400,000, $450,000 that was stuff that they had to take on because of the additional Horace flows. So the cost will come around again, is what I'm saying. So.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? I'm gonna look for a motion to accept the resolution for improvements.
I was gonna give somebody else a chance to make a motion.
I do want to have one more question. This is
Okay.
sanitary sewer, so the size of the area that we have listed out here, and how many developers are in this area versus how many small homes, there's no way for all those other people to petition out of that, is that right?
It's essential service as defined by century code.
Correct.
Sanitary
so
sewer,
you can't
petition.
you can't
even
petition
if
out
it
of
wasn't developer driven, you can't
Okay.
protest out of a sanitary sewer.
I'll support it, as Sarah discussed, knowing that we have a lot of options. Going forward, we're not gonna force anybody on septic to go onto the city services, and as long as we have options, fully recognizing it is absolutely developer driven. I will support it.
Okay, so you're making a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
All right, Stephanie makes the motion, Sarah does a second.
And that's for the accepting the petition for improvements?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Resolution accepting petition for improvements. Okay, all right, then all in favor say aye.
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 All right, motion carries. And then we do the resolution to create the district. Look for a motion to accept that.
Lucas, really quick, do they have to amend that motion because of the corrections
I
delayed?
was gonna include the other one.
We do,
Okay,
with
you're
the
good.
same provisions
Yep.
as discussed previously with the clarification of the legal description language.
Yep.
Okay. We'll move to the next one, in the resolution creating the district, and look for a motion to accept that.
I'll make the motion.
Jeff makes a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
And there's a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Jim, I'm assuming you got the next one too.
I do. So, Mr. Mayor, we have change order number 3, Gorman Street Improvement District 2022-3, Wall Avenue East. This is a change order of, an increase in the amount of $130,851.13, and an extension of the contract to December 16th, 2023. I wouldn't get too hung up on that extension of it, because if you look over there, the job's pretty much done. They've got the maintenance, the privacy fence to put up, and that's gonna go up tomorrow. So it's not gonna take that long, but this is just going through some of the delays that were caused by utilities. I don't know if any of you have seen that area when they put the the locate flags out there. It's a utility superhighway. So there were a lot of utility conflicts that range anywhere from private dry utilities not knowing where their stuff was, cutting across the diagonals, getting in the way of some things. So Dakota Underground took it upon themselves to reach out and notify these utilities, and a number of them said that they asked for the help of the contractor to keep things moving along. So the contractor did indicate that they wouldn't be as far along if they would have waited for the utilities to come in and move those. So with that being said, we have a lot of justification and a lot of correspondence as to what those utility movements were. They've got this broken down quite nicely. I don't know if you've seen it. We did attach it to the change order as far as infrastructure, dry utility lowering, and conflicts. We went back and forth a couple times with the contractor and had quite a few meetings with them to make sure their records and our records were right and where we differed. So we had some iterations that go back and forth. We did have, so we can start kind of at item number one. Item number one was a delay item, and that was having to do with maintaining access to the orchard. That got to be a very big thing. There was a gap, I would say, on the county's point as far as where some property lines were on the entrance to the orchard. Those have been cleaned up now through some survey, but indicated that the trees along the east side of the entrance were within the city right of way or county right of way, which they were not. So we had some delay there in working with that resident to try to come up with an acceptable way of getting back, maintaining access for the residents and the fire trucks there. So we had some delay with that. Second item we had here was a pedestrian rail modification. This is something that would come up. If you've seen the pedestrian rails up on, say, Cheyenne or anywhere where the DOT does them, they're pretty 6-inch spacing on all the railings. And it was decided that during the shop drawing review that didn't provide a whole lot of privacy for the residents along there, so we went through, got some mesh screens put on, fabricated for that railing to provide a little bit more privacy on that. We had some existing infrastructure modification. Some of the piping conflicted, I guess, with the new storm sewer. That was the exact elevations of the services were not known in that area. We've never really opened up that section of roadway. When we did the water main, 2018, I suppose it was, 17, it was all directionally drilled, so we didn't have that. Dry utility lowering, we talked a little bit about that. Excel, Midco, CenturyLink, Ready Tech, and Sparklight. A couple inches below the existing surface of the road. The road got a little bit lowered, as you kind of have seen out there, to get the curb and guttering range on there. And then the last thing is kind of a hot topic, I guess, cold weather concrete flat work charges. This was for hot water, hot aggregates, that type of stuff. Of course, in order to get this done, it happened to be during the cold time. It didn't happen when it was nice out, or nicer out, but it is after talking with the contractor and kind of learning myself as to what that entailed, it's a little more justified than what I thought. It was just kind of a way to stick it to everybody, but there
It's
is.
$8,000, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, $8,043. So, and no time extension request on that. But with that being said, it is, like I said, aside from the pedestrian railing complete, the street lights are up there working, the signage is in, it's up. The old existing street lights that are up there are coming down first week in December. We checked today with Cass County Electric, so there won't be lights on top of lights. That'll come down, and then that project will be ready to be finalized out. So there's a lot here. One thing that I did find amusing is that their original schedule had a 60-day working window, and when you look at the delay for the easement, and when it was officially kind of open was November 9th. If you work it backwards, it works out to the 60 days exactly to when they start. So the whole schedule just shifted that time. They didn't take any more time to do all these utility locates and all that other stuff. They managed to get that in their original schedule that they hadn't accounted for yet. So I thought that was kind of interesting when I went and drew a bunch of stuff on the whiteboard in the office and worked it backwards, and by God, if it just, that 60-day window just didn't switch, so, yeah. Cool.
And we talked a little bit too, we're gonna, you're gonna take a look at the, on Apple Lane, the guardrail along the river, the end cap sticks out over the road surface, you're gonna take a look at that.
I didn't have a chance to ask the project
That's
manager
okay,
this
yeah.
morning if they were gonna push it back into there. It
Okay.
has to do with the offset on the beams from the old school to the current stuff. There's a couple inches or something like that they needed.
So I thought that might be tough for the snow removal too.
Yeah.
In the area, and it's tight there.
Yeah, it looks good from the south going north, but if you turn around and come north to south,
It doesn't.
it kind of sticks out a ways.
It sticks out quite a bit,
Yeah.
so are you gonna be able to just make it look like the other side? Or are you just gonna push it off the road surface?
It would be pushed back.
You're gonna get it off the road
Push
surface?
back. I think I forget
Okay.
how many feet of it there was, but
Okay.
I'll check and make sure that,
Okay.
verify that has or
Okay.
has not been done, so.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, concerns on this one?
No.
Okay, then I'm gonna look for a motion to accept the change order.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Jeff makes a motion,
I'll second.
Stephanie does a second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Jim, you got another, next one. We'll start with A and then we'll work through the BCs.
All right, so, I'll give you a quick run through of the construction projects. Pretty much Wednesday's gonna be the cutoff for construction. That's when, most people are going to stop. Maple Lake Estates, there's a couple punch list items remaining. They'll work on that type of stuff, but as far as the hardcore production, that'll be done Wednesday. The Lomar application is being reviewed for submittal. Vistos, they've got to sweep the road yet, do a little touch-up on the shouldering, and then that one will be ready for acceptance. Arrowwood Third, the Public Works has gone through that, and check the gate valves, check the manholes, that type of stuff. That one's getting ready for the final payment. We talked about Wall Avenue East is done, will be done this week with the pedestrian railing installation and the 2 signs. Wall Avenue West, they were able to get out and flatten out the aggregate west of where the paving stopped, but that's open now. Just
Looks good.
remember that next year, the work behind the curb gets done, so
Yep.
not completely out of the woods, but I don't envision any clay closures when they do that work. River's Edge Second Edition, they'll have all of the underground piping in by Wednesday, is what I was told on Friday. And that's, the completion date for that one is next year. So they're significantly ahead of schedule on that
That's
project.
impressive, the amount of equipment they had up there,
Yeah.
were able to
13
orchestrate all
13
that.
excavators.
That was awesome.
and
They were
one-
all running it, 'cause
Yeah.
I saw a couple of times.
When we flew the drone up there was 13 of them.
That was
So,
amazing.
63rd Street, that project north of Wall Avenue, we had in the contracts that they only had to have the underground done and then the grading in the base, that all the paving is done, curb and gutter, the alley return, or not the alley returns, but the side street returns. The only concrete that remains on that is the sidewalk, so they are significantly ahead of schedule on that one as well. Cub Creek, the areas east of the drain, the concrete work will be done, asphalt paving will not. The plant's shut down and they couldn't get somebody else, the fire plant, to come in that was, to get part of that done, so that one will linger. 66 south of 70th is done and open. I think that turned out pretty nice. Looks good, like a nice corridor, plenty of trees, fence, lights.
I tell you, that landscaping made all the difference.
It does, it
It really does. We
Yes.
need to look at that moving forward because it makes for a very tasteful corridor instead of just bleak, bland,
Yeah.
nothing but a sea of concrete,
Mhm.
you know?
Yep.
Very pleased with how that turned out.
I agree, yeah. Met with the county last week to talk about their 2024 plans. Conroe 17, basically wherever there's existing pavement, we'll get a mill and overlay. And then
Before you move forward, did you talk about north of 70th?
north of 70th, they've got everything graded. They've got a base installed, they don't want to put in their case, the subgrade goes to pot over the winter.
Okay.
But the utility crossings are in, the utility tie-in at 76 or 64th Avenue is complete. And then the Christensen Boulevard sewer did get installed, de-water that, get that connected in, so.
Good.
We're in the forefront of another project on the east side of 66th Street that's pretty significant in size, so they needed that connection to be done for sewer purposes.
Do they have the new schedule for
I
when
don't
that
yet.
will be done?
I do not.
Can you bring it to the next meeting,
I will
inquire on
shoot
it,
for that, yep.
and let us know?
Yep.
I'm curious about how that's gonna impact, I mean, that's a whole region up there that has some impacts we need to be looking at as a precursor to some of what could potentially be coming.
Yes.
Forgive the interruption, Jim.
Nope, that's all right. Hit the big ones. Anyone have anything specific on those, on the construction stuff?
No, you were talking about 17.
Oh, yeah.
County.
So, from the bridge south to where the inlet structure is, that gets milling over that Conroe 17 next year. They're planning to put turn lanes in for the Future Sparks edition, and then County Road 14, I think is what it is, 100th Avenue.
100th Avenue.
Gets a mill and overlay as well, as part of the project next
To
summer, so.
what directions, east and west? on
From
them?
the Cheyenne River to the I-29.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That whole thing is gonna get done, and then, I'll say, drawing a blank here. Man, they're gonna build a turn lane for Vistos on
On
100th
100th.
Avenue.
Thank God.
And it will, that's what I was just saying, it's all gonna be done under traffic, there won't be any closures
I was
for
just
that.
gonna ask that
Yeah,
too.
that's what
Good.
I was getting at, they're gonna do it under
Good.
traffic, and, hope to have a bid in January, February timeframe, so.
It needs it, the road needs it.
It's definitely showing its age right now.
Yep.
Yeah, it is, so. I did provide you with a copy of the Maple Lake Estates survey that we did for budding up to Country Acres. We don't need to go over that now, I don't think, unless you absolutely want to, but we can touch base on it and you can look at the data. We cleaned it up some, so.
Oh,
I did give a copy of that to Joel, so he's got it too.
oh, what, yeah, do we have an update at all on that, or is that nothing we need to
So,
talk about tonight, or?
The hangup was just getting the survey on, which we have in front of us, and then the plan sheet on here too. So there are some areas where you can see that it deviates, there's some holes in there. So we're gonna sit down at staff level with Joel and just, and see what we need to do, or what we can do going forward with this, so.
Have we ever heard back from Thompson?
I personally haven't, but I haven't heard anything. Last I heard, this was kind of a holdup, so.
So is this
Remember that.
something we'll, I mean, obviously they're not watering, but I realize that's not the
Yeah.
underlying problem. But I mean, we're gonna hit that in the spring
Yeah.
with making sure that these, whatever we need to do.
Yeah, we
in
just have to
terms
see how we're gonna do it, because
Okay.
we got to thinking today that Thompson's so low. So apparently the attorney's on that.
Once it, what?
The
I was just
houses,
hearing about that now.
Oh,
Oh, that the
Makes
homes are,
sense.
the Thompson no longer owns the homes?
Probably.
There must be recourse against them.
that's what we
though.
got to thinking about today when we were talking about this.
Don't you
is
think,
that-
Lucas? There must be recourse against them.
I don't know what the issue is.
Wait a
I mean,
minute, say
until
that
we,
again.
until we
What
determine
happened?
the issue.
The houses have sold. So Thompson is the one who we were having trouble with. And now that I'm assuming this is the end of the year, those houses have sold, they're no longer in their possession. So now it becomes going back to the civil.
Care, custody, and control is transferred.
Yes. So we have to talk about it. That's why I said I don't have a definitive, this is our path forward yet, because we need to
Okay.
talk.
But
We
the
we had a meeting today to go over this.
The underlying drainage issues were there when Thompson
Correct,
owned the homes. I
when they
understand.
constructed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the underlying issue is though.
Okay.
That's what the
Correct.
survey's for, and they're
Okay.
processing that now.
Okay,
So that's what we got.
thank you.
All right, so the next thing we have is the application for lead service line inventory assistance. Like I said earlier, the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality got some money through the EPA to assist cities with preparing their lead service line inventory. It is, I think, a grant where if you fill it, if they have the money, you can go through the process and you can meet your requirements for that. So they will, what they've done in the past is, now that they've released the money, or started releasing the money, it's a first come, first served basis. Sounds like they have more money than they have people that are asking for it. So they're going around and hitting up all the cities and asking, are you sure you don't want to take part in this? Are you sure you don't want to take part in this? So we have a lot of this work done through the water replacement project, but it's good to have any bit that we can do underneath the grant to do it that way. So the first thing is there's really no action with the application for lead service line inventory other than just send it in. But we do have a resolution of governing body, which basically just says that it's authorizing filling of an application with the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality, NDDEQ, for assistance performing a lead service line inventory in compliance with the lead and copper rule revisions. Whereas the public water system named above is a community public water system, or non-transient, non-community water system regulated by the DEQ, the governing body of this entity authorizes the above named designated official to submit an application to the NDDEQ to request assistance with a lead service line inventory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we just need a resolution, just need a motion accepting the resolution of governing body of applicant, and go from there.
Motion accepting resolution.
Second.
Okay, Sarah makes a motion, Jeff does a second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. You need anything else with that, Jim, or you're good?
No, and I
You
believe
good?
that ends my portion of the show.
Just, I have a quick question for you. So Carmen's been asking about that issue up at Allen's there. We
As
had-
far as the one on the barns at, or that yellow?
76, yeah.
The first
I
one.
think that you guys have, what's that?
I brought it up with you guys, or it's that right to the east of the temporary road.
Yeah. So I think Adam was talking to somebody about trying to get it in there and get it cleaned, but I don't know if it was.
The contractor was not able to get in there this year.
That's kind of what I got out of it, but I can follow up with him tomorrow.
Just double check.
Speaking of that, the
Okay.
county is gonna do some drainage work on 100th Avenue, but they're waiting for it to freeze before they get down there. They think they can get to it as you're down.
Oh, yet this year? Oh,
Well,
good.
Yeah, I think that most of it's gonna be on the west side of 100th Avenue, but Kyle did tell me that.
Okay.
They thought they could get to it, but they wanted a little frost in the ground before they did it.
Okay. In the ditch on the north and the south side of 100?
I'm not sure.
On
He
the
pointed
west?
to the north side of 100,
On the
west,
west of-
east of 17.
Okay.
Which makes sense, so that they don't want it all rutted up so bad.
That's,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Okay, any other questions for Jim? All right, Jim, you can get your voice back. Brenton, you're up.
I just have a couple items. Deputy Murray mentioned meeting with headquarters owner and Johnner. I was at that meeting too, and it was a very productive meeting. I think it gave the owner of headquarters a good understanding of what the sheriff's department actually is addressing. Year to date, there have been no DUIs issued in Horace, and only one last year. So it kind of negated that conversation pretty quick. But we did have overall just good conversation of how they can work together and just where the deputies can be mindful of where their presence is and isn't sometimes. So, yep. But anyways, like I said, good discussion there. And I think everybody left feeling productive, like it was a very productive one. So, the other item I had is, Naomi, I know you've asked about CIP, looking at December, but I'll be reaching out to you and probably others to touch base, to show you the draft of it. I met with Councilmember Vite not too long ago about it. Meeting up with Jim and Joel to go do a fine tuning of it. But I'll be able to go through the project soon. And I've also went through the funding avenues with Matt, so we've been going through that. We want to make sure we have it drilled down before we bring it up. So I don't know if it'll be the first or second. I'm shooting for the first meeting in December, but pretty confident it'll be in December. So, yep. That's all I had.
Okay. Any questions for Brenton?
You know, a lot of work went into the discussion on capital improvement projects, and we appreciate that, and I appreciate you working on baking that so that it's 100% before everybody else sees it.
No. All right, on portfolios. HB had a little social here last week, Wednesday. Went to that. That was kind of interesting to kind of just catch up with the different people who are involved with HB. There were some other elected officials there too, so kind of touch base with them, which was good. Darren from the chamber was out here last Thursday. We met with those guys for quite a while, kind of discussing about different chamber activities, how Horace can get a little bit more involved with the chamber, which is not a bad thing. So we're going to have more discussions on that. Next week, I think it's Wednesday, I'll be attending, the Chamber's got a roundtable discussion on some things that are affecting the metro area. We're going to be meeting and having discussions about that, so it'll be next week. So that's my fun and games. Sarah, what do you got?
It's the end of the year. We're wrapping up projects. I had a good discussion with Joel today, a couple different things, and I'm pretty tickled to see some things come to an end. I'm really, really happy to see Wall open. I know that Paul took a beating from several people and managed to get it open, and I hope everybody's really pleased with that corridor. Several of the other corridors are completed, I think Jim already touched on, but just finishing touches so that we can finalize financials and get ready and geared up for next year. We already got to start looking ahead, so.
Oh, sounds good. Naomi, what do you got?
I don't really have anything. Jace is out this coming week, so, no, this week, right?
Yeah, he's out this week.
So I haven't had any meetings with him this week.
Okay. Nothing else?
That's it.
Got it. Stephanie, what do you got?
I attended a virtual metro-wide task force on homelessness last week with elected officials from West Fargo, and Moorhead. Just had kind of a general conversation on that issue. And Paul and I have been working away on holidays. It's coming together very nicely. It's going to be Saturday, December 9th. If anyone's interested, we are looking for volunteers for a few things. We're going to have fire pits and s'mores and carriage rides and lots of fun activities for kids and vendors. And we switched the senior center ladies into doing the meal, which is always a hit in the community.
Where are you holding that?
Senior center.
At the senior
Yep,
center?
we're at the
Okay,
senior
that's
center.
what I thought.
Yeah, so I think it's coming together nicely. We're going to have a great event. So that's what I've been working on.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
That's it? All right. Jeff?
All right, so last week we had a meeting for MetroCog. We were identified in that meeting as a recipient of some funds that had not been used by other areas in the state. And they provided those additional funds to the City of Horace's downtown core neighborhood study. Sent an email to you, Brenton, Jim, and Jace, I believe.
I didn't want to steal your thunder, Jeff.
You're fine, you can just talk about it. So yeah, we received additional funding for that study, and happy to see that. And the reason we got it is we were one of the only cities that actually had a study like that was currently going on, and they were able to use up those funds. So it's good that we apply for those kind of studies or grants. So keep doing that, Jim.
We've gotten a lot of grant money so far for that
Yep.
study. So-
The additional funds, I believe your email says $81,473.12.
Yeah.
All total, yep, over the last 2 or 3 years.
That's, I believe, the additional on top of what we already
So
have
the
secured.
only caveat is that it has to be spent by next year. So
Yep.
just so you guys are aware, it has to be
Yep.
used up in 2024.
Jace is working on the drafting that proposal with MetroCog staff and getting that squared away, so probably it won't be too far away when we're bringing it to council for you guys to approve.
And other than that, that's about it.
All right, then I'm gonna look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Jeff makes a motion. You get a second?
Naomi's
I'll
got
do
it.
the
Naomi.
second.
All right, let me do the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You're done.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Thanks, everyone.
Thanksgiving.